And that became our niche and our go-to. We quite quickly became the UK's leading agency, trusted by big players in the market, Crowdcube, Seeders, Dent Global. We were winning global awards for what we did. We really started to get the rewards for taking that kind of brave decision to niche. There's all this other stuff we could do and we were earning money out of, but we took that brave step to niche, which can be really difficult for sort of agencies starting out. And we got the rewards for it, and we saw incredible growth as a result, and really defined our space in what at the time was a fairly new market.
Welcome to the Product Agility Podcast, the missing link between agile and product. The purpose of this podcast is to share practical tips, strategies, and stories from world-class thought leaders and practitioners. Why, I hear you ask? Well, I want to increase your knowledge and your motivation to experiment so that together we can create ever more successful products. My name is Ben Maynard and I'm your host. What has driven me for the last decade to bridge the gap between agility and product is a deep-rooted belief that people and products evolving together can achieve mutual excellence.
Hello and welcome to the Product Agility Podcast. Today we are joined by James Church, who is author of the best-selling book, The Investable Entrepreneur. Now, James has been on my radar for a while because he is as well as being an author, the co-founder of the global award-winning investment readiness agency, Robot Mascot. Mascot Do sounds really interesting and offer a pretty interesting and unique proposition. So it's an absolute joy, James, to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here. And yeah, what a great intro. Thank you. I'm glad I sparked some interest.
No, you really did, because you used the word sprints in what you do. And being an old Scrum person, sprint instantly then piqued my interest. Oh, another application of sprints. Mm-hmm. I say an old Scrum person, so I'm not a new Scrum person. Post-Scrum person, maybe? I'm not sure. But it really did find it interesting because being a co-founder myself and working to get a product in the market, I know it's incredibly difficult, and we do get to those points where you just begin to see the enormity of what's ahead of you, and you realize that a lot of the stories of people that have done really well with particular technology products have done well because they've had some external support from some mechanism, whatever that might have been. And when you don't have that external support, you begin to realize that there's a lot of money that's potentially needed to make this thing a success. And the service that you offer, which I'm talking around but not going into great detail on, I think is really fascinating. So we're going to be talking a little bit today about your book, and we're talking a lot probably about what Robot Mascot do, and maybe a little bit about James Church, the man, the myth. So
maybe not quite the myth, but certainly the man. So
yeah, no myths surrounding me. No, you're an open book. So I gave you an introduction. Is there anything else about you personally, James, that you'd like to share with our audience before we get into the topics of the day?
Oh, wow. To share personally, really personally, like my life or my work life? What do you want?
I don't know, mate.
Well, look, I'm father of two, got a beautiful wife, two amazing boys. That's the personal life. The whole reason for what we do at Robot Mascot and writing the book and everything we're probably going to talk about today is all really around this desire to really help founders take their ideas to the next level. We love incredible ideas and get so frustrated at seeing them fail to raise that capital they need to get to the next level, to take that beyond an idea or beyond a kind of a small business into something quite incredible and having impact on multiple levels. So yeah, that's really what drives us, is this idea that we love ideas, we want them to succeed, and we want them to have the capital they need to be able to do that.
So let's be clear then, for those of you that are listening, that are wondering just what this service is, James, you offer the opportunity for founders to take their ideas and really turn them into something which has a good market fit with the adequate funding along the journey to make it a consistent reality. And this is more, you're not giving them the money, are you? Can you maybe explain to the audience, what exactly do you do at Robot Mascot?
Yeah, so we describe ourselves as an investment readiness agency or a pitch agency. So we help founders communicate their concept, their business, to investors so they can get the capital they need to fund their growth. So we work with pre-seed and Series A funding, which is your early stage funding. So all the way through from concept to those with $1 million in revenues, looking for funding to take that next step. So if your concept stage, it might be looking for a few $100,000 to build your prototype, launch it to market, test it on some users. If you're at that other end of the scale, you've already there, you've got 1 million in revenues and you're looking to scale from 1 to 10 million, 10 to 100, and that you want that sort of millions of pounds in funding to go in and tackle new markets, launch new products, or scale up internationally, whatever it may be. So yeah, we're working with founders all the way through that journey.
It's something you said when we were talking before I hit record, was that you help founders to go away from just doing this thing as let's say this thing, trying to make their idea reality as something they do as well as their job, their part-time job, and actually turn this into a profession. This is a living for them rather than it just being something which is on the side.
Yeah, so many of our founders, certainly those at the earlier stage, this is currently their side hustle. They've been working on it for months or years, validating that this is a goer, it's something that the market wants and needs, and now they need to take that leap and they need to start building something and take some capital and also time, and they need to be able to quit their job and focus on it full time, and they perhaps need to bring in a small team around them to start developing a very basic version of the product out and get it out into the market. So yeah, we're often helping founders take that leap through the work that we do, which is preparing them for raising capital and then helping them reach out to prospective investors and build a network of high net worth and angel investors in their niche. And yeah, so it's those, and it's also founders that have been there, they've already taken that leap, they're doing this full time. Maybe they've been doing it, sort of hustling, bootstrapping it for the last 2 to 3 years, and now they're looking for that external funding to take that next step. So yeah, a real broad mix of motivations.
I'm sure there's some people who are listening that can relate to this, and we were saying this isn't for the person that had a great idea down the pub last night. This is for people that are serious about taking a risk. Well, before we go into the depths of some of this, what I'd like to do is just to backtrack, because one thing that I do love talking about is products. And of course, you help many products get to market with the pitch support that you provide, but also the way that Robot Mascot has ended up in its current incarnation was a story of productization, was a story of discovery and pivoting. And I'd love for you, if it's okay, just to share a little bit of the story for how Robot Mascot ended up where it is today.
Yeah, so we're coming up for 10 years old, depending on whether you count when the founder of the company, Nick, started working as a freelancer under the name Robot Mascot, and then I joined him later, or whether you count it from when we officially registered as a limited company, depends on how old we are, but we're in and around 10 years old. And we started life as a full service creative brand agency, brand communication agency. We were doing websites and brochures and TV ads and radio campaigns and all kinds of cool projects. And over time, we realized that we were sort of spreading ourselves too thin a little bit. We were doing a lot of various different things. We were a new business. We just said yes to whatever work was coming our way. And we started to identify that startups were, we always wanted to work with pioneers. Like our original kind of brief as a business, we wanted to work with creatives, with pioneers, with idea generators. And we were attracting those sorts of clients naturally through the way that we operated as a business. We were working with startups and we're helping them build their brand or whatever it may be. And then they needed funding. And they asked us if we could help them with their pitch deck. And we said, yeah, sure. How hard can it be? It's a design and communication job at the end of the day. And we did that. We sort of muddled through, we figured it out for a couple of clients, as you do when you start. And a couple of our advisors were angel investors. They saw the work that we were doing and said, actually, there's a real need. Like, you're smashing it. If every pitch in our inbox was like what you've been creating for your clients here, that would make our lives so much easier. So I think you've got something really special here, really interesting. So we went away and researched that more and ultimately realized that there was a massive problem with my business partner, Nick, he defined as the zombie stare. Founders are pitching these ideas to investors and they get blank, glazed over looks where no one really understands why it needs to exist, where, what its potential is. They're saying all the wrong things in the wrong way. And we knew we could apply our brand communication expertise to that and start applying it into that space. So we started doing that. We launched a sort of a test landing page for that incarnation of the business and started pitching it, started going to more and more events in the startup ecosystem, realizing that, this was having real traction, getting real interest from founders and investors alike. And that sort of snowballed from there, really. I started interviewing investors and founders and refining our process, realizing that there was much more to it than we really originally thought. And all of that led into the methodology that I talk about in the book. investable entrepreneur. And that really is the summary of all the learnings from that exercise. And in and around the time we launched the book, we fully pivoted the agency from full service creative agency into investment readiness agency. And that became our niche and our go-to. We quite quickly became the UK's leading agency, trusted by big players in the market, Crowdcube, Seeders, Dent Global. We were winning global awards for what we did. We really started to get the rewards for taking that kind of brave decision to niche. There's all this other stuff we could do and we were earning money out of, but we took that brave step to niche, which can be really difficult for sort of agencies starting out. And we got the rewards for it, and we saw incredible growth as a result, and really defined our space in what at the time was a fairly new market.
You make it all sound so easy.
Well, yeah, that's 10 years condensed into a minute or so there, but yeah.
There must have been something that was difficult during those times.
Yeah, and there was lots of difficult moments. One was deciding if we were going to niche and where. That was a big decision. Building a reputation, getting leads. And I think the biggest challenge that we were always faced by people in the industry is surely startups have no money. How can they pay for your services? It has that sort of a bit of a falsity, but because when you look at any successful business, it's true, there's plenty of people out there with ideas with no capital. We're there to help them find the capital, but you do need a bit of your own capital or friends and family capital to invest. So all of our startups have got to that stage where we're very clear they're people that are able to self-fund some of this development themselves. They've already invested a certain amount themselves, or they've got friends and family investment that they're using to fund their growth. And we're part of that wider picture of various things they need to do to get their business off the ground. But part of kind of our strategy was figuring out how do we align with our own vision. Our ethos was always to be the friends and allies of founders, be their support, be their guide. How do we align to that while also understanding that there is only a small section of the market that would pay for a service like we offer and that we're going to be able to make money out of. And that's where kind of things like the book and stuff really started to form and take shape, because we could offer that as a low cost or even free kind of here's how you do it. We're going to tell you everything we know, and we're here to support and guide you first and foremost. Now, if you then want to bring in experts to help you execute on that, then we're here, but there's no expectation that you're going to be in the position to do that. There's free workshop I deliver every week. There's the book, there's an online scorecard and assessment, there's downloads and resources. We put enough stuff out there that if you wanted to commit time and effort to it, you can do it yourself. And then our service is for those that want to access that expertise and leverage their time and do those things. Figuring that out was probably the biggest challenge of how do we square that circle? How do we get that right and stick true to our ethos and our vision and what we want Robot Mascot to stand for, while also providing a premium and expert service where we don't cut corners, we don't bring in juniors and cut the price. We work with real experts so we can add value. That's probably the biggest challenge.
You've mentioned vision at least 3 times, which I really like. It's no big secret that I'm a big fan of having a clear vision for what you're trying to achieve. Is it fair to say that vision is what helps you achieve the growth that you've had?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess you've got to remember me and my business partner from a brand and marketing background. So my business partner, Nick, the original founder, he's from top 10 agencies. Worked on ad campaigns for the likes of Jaguar and Barclays and Tesco and these big brands. So he comes from a world of brand and vision and messaging. And equally, I come from a brand and marketing background. That's how we met. Internally, talk about brand instead of business. We use the word brand rather than business. And I think that's quite unique to our background, is that we use those terms interchangeably and we live and breathe the brand. It's less about the business and the product. It's, we very much operate around a vision and around a brand as much as we do anything else.
So I guess for you, the vision aspect of it just fell out of how you wanted to work.
I think so. I think a lot of businesses probably start with a product and start with a problem that needs solving and the status quo they want to change perhaps, but they very much, a lot of people are product led, or they focus on the business mechanics, I suppose. Whereas I guess naturally, me and my founder are more vision led because of our background. So it was all about ethos and vision and values and what are we trying to achieve? How are we challenging that status quo from a broader brand perspective? And that I suppose gave us the ability to look at these different opportunities and kind of pivot from full service agency into this niche, because it was less about product and more about how can we live up to the original vision of enabling ideas and enabling how can we best serve entrepreneurs and founders to make their ideas a reality. And that could have been done in a number of different ways. It just so happened that through our research and through our various developments and pivots, it's ended up here. But it could have quite easily ended up in brand or in marketing or in a number of different services.
So you and your co-founder are visionaries, and I would say that's a statement rather than the question, because I don't think you can have a compelling vision that achieves the types of things that you've achieved unless you have that ability. I don't think everyone has that muscle to come up with a clear and compelling vision that they really believe in. And I'm not saying that means they won't be successful. They could well be, but I think that having a clear purpose and knowing who you are doing it for, being able to empathize with them, it helps drive us forward. And like you say, if you get that niche right, you do the research, then there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like in your support then of startups, companies, organizations that are going for funding, do you see any patterns around if they have a vision or not, and how easy or hard it is to get them to a point where they can be successful? I say successful in so much that they achieve the funding that they require, or is there no correlation from what you've seen between their vision and then their success in getting the funding they need?
No, I think one of the key things I talk about in the book, I describe it as being a highly resourceful entrepreneur. And that really is this connection with the idea of being able to pitch a vision, enroll people into your vision. So investors are looking for what I've defined as a highly resourceful entrepreneur. And these are entrepreneurs that can enroll people into their vision. They can not only attract investors and enroll investors into their vision and have them want to fund their project, but they can also attract top talent to join their team. And maybe that talent is going to do it at below market rate salary in return for share options because they believe in this vision so much. They can get on board the best advisors. They can negotiate real strategic partnerships that they can leverage to get their product to market very quickly, access an audience, a ready-made audience, for example. All of these things happen to a founder that can pitch their vision and can then enroll people into their vision. And entrepreneurship, in my mind, is a journey of a sort of 1,000 pitches. You're constantly pitching, whether it's for funding or for someone to join your team or to get a partnership deal or to exit your business at the very end. It's a constant series of pitches. And one of the key things we want to be able to do with our clients, and it's easier with some than others, I'm not going to lie, but is extract away from, yes, this is the product and these are the functional benefits and features and things, but what's the bigger vision? What's the thing that we can all get excited by, whether we understand the technology or the product itself? What can we all get excited by, whether it's an investor or a potential acquirer, or whether it's a new team member? What is it that we can all get excited by? And that's a really key. How do we articulate that, and how do we articulate the value proposition that sits alongside it? So yeah, that's a really key part of our process, is defining that pitch, and that starts with trying to inspire through a vision and a value proposition.
So last question on vision, and then I promise we'll move on. Because I think it's going to be useful advice for people. What is it in your mind that constitutes as a well-crafted vision? Like, how do you create that excitement and that desire to follow?
Yeah. So it has to be something that's beyond making money. It has to be a vision beyond making money. It has to talk to an emotion. It can't be, a really poor vision would be to be the market leader in X. That's a strategic vision. That's a strategic aim, goal. It's not really a vision. Brands like Dove do it really well. I don't know exactly, but it's the essence of it is to change the way women feel about their body. Everyone's beautiful, whatever they look like. That's something we can all get behind and we can all agree with and we can all aspire to do. Now, the way Dove execute that is some really great soaps and products and that kind of thing, but it transcends into everything that they do, the way they position the product, the products they build and develop and all of those things. So for me, it's got to transcend kind of market growth targets and product, and you should probably never mention your product in a vision. You know, if you're mentioning your product in a vision, you're probably doing it wrong. So yeah, it's just got to be something that everyone can emotionally attach to and say, I want a world in which that is the case. It doesn't have to be the case now. And your product doesn't have to solve your vision fully either. The vision is much bigger. You want to see a world where this happens. We want to see a world in which great ideas and innovations flourish, right? That's the Robot Mascot one. We do that in one way, helping them access capital to make that happen. We don't have to then solve that whole vision. We don't have to have a suite of services that ensure every idea and innovation flourishes in all aspects of business. But that's the vision that grounds everything that we do. Our product is a tiny part of that becoming but it also, if we were to look at, let's say we look at this in 10 years' time and Robot Mascot's now looking to make some acquisitions to grow our business, that would be a leading statement as to what sort of businesses are we going to acquire. From that, we can move into any product or service or acquire any type of business we like, as long as those businesses align with that vision of having this business as part of the Robot Mascot portfolio. Would that enable great ideas and innovations to flourish? And if the answer is yes, then that's a perfectly strategic acquisition for Robot Mascot.
Yeah. I think you're really talking well to the power of a vision. I loved what you said when you said a good vision perhaps doesn't even mention the product.
Absolutely.
That's great advice.
So, the thing is, when you're a founder of a startup or any business, there's some big businesses with really terrible brand visions and values, often because they're co-created by senior management. They often say in agency land, a camel is a horse designed by committee. Someone's got to be brave enough to just go, that's it, and that's what we're sticking with. But yeah, it's very easy to go back to your product because that's all you know, that's all you care about right now as a startup, is getting this product off the ground. It also means that when it comes to pivoting, if you've built your whole concept, your whole business around a particular set of product features, it's then very difficult for you to accept that perhaps that isn't quite what the market wants and needs, and I need to change and pivot what I'm offering. Whereas if it starts from a broader vision of we want to change the world in this way, and the way we think we're going to do that right now is these product features, it allows you much more easily to feel comfortable with pivoting and changing and learning from what the market's saying without having those blinkers on and going, but my idea is blockchain because my vision is that we're going to build a blockchain company that does X. And it's, no, it doesn't. If that's not the right technology, if that's not delivering the ultimate vision, then don't be blinkered on the fact that you've promised everyone a blockchain technology. Whereas if that's baked into your vision and your value proposition, the technology, the features, the benefits, then you're backing yourself into a corner and not allowing you to create something that genuinely is meaningful to the market and will actually solve a problem.
It reminds me of a post I did on LinkedIn ages ago, and actually maybe quite recently as well. I think I reposted it. But the time that I spent internally in organizations trying to help people come up with a vision for what it is they wanted just never worked. It was a bunch of senior managers who had an idea for a great solution, but had never done the research to see whether or not the users in the organization, these were internal things, this wasn't externally facing, but whether the users internally in the organization actually had a problem to solve by what they were producing.
Yeah.
And many of these things never really were the success that people believed they would be. Many of them never even got off the ground because actually when it came to the crunch, they couldn't make a business case for it because there wasn't any reason to produce this solution because it was always a solution trying to find a problem. And I think the stuff on vision is just awesome. Have you read the book Radical Product Thinking?
I haven't, no.
Mate, you should check it out. Awesome book. And really, the way you're talking, so similar. And Radical is going to be coming over in September, I think. We're going to be running a Radical Product Thinking workshop together in London, actually. So, yeah, read the book. It's a fantastic book. I think you dig it. Awesome. So, let's go back and let's think then. So, we've covered a lot on vision because I know it's relevant to the people listening. There's also something that I just care passionately about, and you spoke about it so well, about how it needs to be compelling. Maybe there's a mention of the product, talks about the difference you're going to make in the world, needs to contain emotion, like top advice. So if we then think about the process that you help entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs go through with Robot Mascot, what exactly then is the process that people will go through when they engage with you?
Yeah, so All of this talk of vision, it sounds idyllic, but it takes a long while to one, get there and get that language, because you're trying to boil everything that's going around in your head down to maybe 1 or 2 sentences or a couple of slides in a pitch deck. So it's really difficult to articulate that off the bat. So we've found that the process we've created, the methodology that I talk about in the book, is really takes a massive step back and just starts with the business plan. What is the business? What does it do? Why does it exist? What problems is it solving? What opportunities are there in the market? How are we going to do it? What are the products? What's the current kind of status of the product? What features, what benefits will it have now and in the future? What's the development timeline? Get all of that down. Get it out of your head so it can't encumber future development. Get it all down there. Get it all articulated as a solid business plan. And that does 2 things. The first is it's really great when it comes to raising investment, as in your due diligence pack, and being able to show this is all the detail behind the pitch, the detail behind the financial forecast, all the assumptions, everything that we talk about is backed up by considerable thinking and research and strategy in this document. So it gives you that credibility behind the things that you're going to be presenting to the investor. The second thing it does is it gives founders a better ability to articulate those things, like the business strategy and the product and the feature set and all of those things, to an investor, because they've considered how it all links together and how they're going to communicate it in written form through a business plan. So it makes their own conversations with investors after the pitch and the Q&A more succinct and more articulate, because they've gone through that process. And the final thing is it gives founder confidence when it comes to their pitch to do a really top level vision and value proposition without feeling the need to list everything, absolutely everything in their pitch, which makes the pitch more compelling and engaging, and people can be inspired by what you're presenting, because the founder feels confident that it's okay to just say, this is what we do in 1 sentence, without over explaining it, because I know I've got all the detail ready to explain to an investor if I need to. So it's almost a psychological process of getting to that vision, that value proposition, that clear and articulate pitch. The whole process is designed sort of twofold. One, it's a really great process for getting to that really clear, compelling and articulate communication from a practical sense. But also the way that we've designed it is that the assets produced along the journey, the outcomes along the journey of a business plan, and then a financial model, and then a set of pitch content, and then a pitch design, going through that process in that order creates incredible assets that you can leverage in front of investors and in conversations with them that give you credibility and everything you need to go and convince an investor that your business is the one to back. So it's this deep dive into everything business, and then unpacking that and going, how do we say less each time, every step of the journey? How do we say less until we get to this clear and articulate communication of the business?
I think that probably puts a lot of people off. I think there is this hazy idea that in order to get a product to market, it's just so easy nowadays and you can just go ahead and get it out there. But actually there is a lot of the work that needs to be done. And I think the business plan element of it sounds, I don't know, maybe just I'm of a certain age, but it sounds like the type of thing you were taught to do in GCSE business studies. So you know, at high school, effectively, you're being taught how to come up with a business plan. But what you're saying there, that's of critical importance if you're not going to end up in a situation, much like on The Apprentice, which I'm assuming you've seen every now and again, when they get to the interview stage and they get through this whole rigmarole and it's down to the last 4 or 5 people and their business plans get interrogated and they just crumble because there is nothing there.
Exactly the point. When we first pivoted into this space, we only did pitches. We brand and communication. It was come to us with your idea, tell us about it. We'll do a workshop and then we'll turn it into a compelling pitch. And that was great. And our clients were 10 times more likely to raise investment than the industry average as a result of a really compelling pitch that got them through the door with investors. And that was great. But we felt we could do much better than that. I'm sure there's more to be done. And one of the big frustrations from us was when we were interrogating the client in the workshops, there didn't seem to be a lot of substance around go-to-market strategy or how they were going to, the validation behind the idea or whatever it may be. And we thought investors must be feeling this pain too. And it became very clear through our continued kind of research with investors that the pitch opens the door. It's the key to opening the safe, if you like, but it's not the tool that allows you to walk through the door and fill your bag up with the gold that lays behind the door. You need a different set of tools to do that. So the pitch is very much the key to opening that safe. It's not the tool that gives you access to the capital. So we were like, well, what do they need? What does a founder then need once they've got through the door? They're going through that due diligence. They're getting the Q&A. You talk about The Apprentice. The Dragon's Den is another great one. They give a great 3-minute pitch, and then as soon as the dragons start asking questions, it all crumbles. They've got nothing behind, no substance for the investors to invest into. So that was the next problem that needs solving. We're opening those doors. We've got the key that's opening all these doors. How do we make sure that when they walk through that door, they've got the resources they need to be able to hold themselves up to investor scrutiny, appear to be credible, and all those things? And that's where it was very clear that they needed a way to start thinking and articulating the finer details of the business strategy, and a way to articulate the numbers in a way that made sense to investors. Not sense to founders, because founders love to focus on opportunities and possibilities and ideas, whereas investors want to talk about underlying assets and risk and cash flow and all of those sorts of things. So how do we train founders that, again, going through a process, they are leveled up as a founder, they learn a lot so they can hold their own in these one-to-one kind of Q&A under scrutiny from investors, but also have the documentation to back them up. Bit of a get out of jail free card as well. If they can't quite remember the answer, they can always refer the investor onto the business plan with the detail. How do we give them useful tools that, one, level them up as a founder, and two, provide useful outcomes, useful assets that they can use in the process? And that's where we started the business planning and the financial projections as a service. And the ultimate result of combining those 3 steps of business plan, financials, pitch materials was that where our pitch assets were getting clients 10 times more likely to raise investment, as a whole set, our clients are now 40 times more likely to raise investment. So a massive increase in a founder's ability to raise investment, because they themselves are leveled up. They haven't just got this great story and this compelling vision. They've now got a really credible strategy that backs that up. And as a result, they're raising more money more often.
It's sounding like a panacea almost, like it's almost too good to be true. I'm not saying it is, but it does. 40 times more likely is a phenomenal statistic, and it's true. You're not going to say it if it isn't. I'm just wondering, because it's been so phenomenally successful, have you found you've now got competition in the market? Are people with similar products and trying to encroach? And I suppose that how have you found you needed to evolve to stay relevant?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've always had competition in the form of individual consultants and ex-investors or ex-investment analysts that sort of now want to start coaching and mentoring founders. So I think it's always been the case, but we've always positioned ourselves as the premium, where you bring in a team of individuals. We've got business strategists, financial strategists, copywriters, designers. Everyone's expert at their own piece of the puzzle rather than one consultant. But we have diversified. We've got our core done-for-you services, but we have launched more mentoring type services where we guide founders through more of a do-it-yourself with our guidance and support, so that we can cater for that, whether they've got the time and they want to do it themselves. But it's just been, for us, it's been a case of always maintaining standards and making sure we're seen as the market leader, winning global awards, partnering with great people, doing awesome things. It just snowballs as you're the market leader, and so far that's worked out well for us.
Nice. I want to go on the website and refresh my memory of what it is that you offer, because it's been a few weeks since I've been on it. So after we finish, I'm definitely going to be having a little look around, because I do find it a really fascinating proposition, and I think it could be so useful, because I think of where me and my co-founder are at right now. But there's lots of work that needs to be done. And I just wonder how much we would gain from going through the process. My guess is probably quite a lot, if I'm honest with you. I think it's really hard as a founder to not just focus on the things you're very comfortable with and strive to get something over the line and get something done, when actually there is other stuff which in your gut needs to happen, but you just haven't made the time or got the skills or can find the people to support you on that journey.
That's it. I think that's probably one of the biggest value adds is the development of the founder or the founding team, the being able, an opportunity to pull yourself out of the trenches of the day to day and look at it more strategically with sort of a bird's eye view and go, this is the longer term, the short, medium and longer term plan. This is where we're heading, all having agreement and alignment on what that is, and asking you to think about things you're not so comfortable with. So we need to cover lots of aspects of business development, and some people are great at sales and marketing, some people aren't. Some people really have a clear understanding of product development, some people are. And it's like, how do we support you to have a more rounded view of the business and not just focus on the thing that you're really good at? And I think one founder probably summed it up really well, early stage founder, but had incredible success with their business from their sort of kitchen table, now looking to take the next step. And they said, I started the process as someone with an idea and I left it feeling like a proper entrepreneur. They felt like they could be asked any question about their business and they would have, may not be a response that people agree with. They might want to build it in a different way, but at least they had a response and they knew what they were planning on doing. Because no investor is going to agree with your plans 100%. And they'll deliberately challenge you to see what you're made of, because most founders will see themselves as inferior to the investor. So the investor will ask, why are you doing that? Why is your growth rate as it is? And it'll be like, oh, sorry, should it be lower? I'll reduce that. I'll get it back. Or are they there saying, well, I appreciate it. It's a pretty punchy growth rate, but we believe that to be possible because of X, Y, and Z. And they're the founders they want to invest into, not necessarily the ones who go away and go, oh, I'm ever so sorry, let me change that and get back to you.
It's really funny you say that, because it took me back to my days in corporate life, where the people that succeeded, in order to succeed, if you were going to be pitching something or going for something, then you had to know your stuff and stick to it. Don't waver. Don't be all apologetic. And like you show that you're worthy of, in the corporate life, worthy of that promotion, worthy of being that person's peer, which meant there's an element of challenge. It says what you're saying is you need to prove that you're worthy of their money, because you're not going to roll over when someone comes along and says, oh, well, why are you doing that? Like, oh, no, what? Yeah, I don't know why I'm doing that. Maybe I won't do that. Maybe I'll do something else. Well, you need to know what you're talking about.
What you say there is, it rings true with what the landscape of the European and UK landscape of investors looks like. So about 80% of UK investors are ex-corporate CEOs, CFOs, people from the city. They're from that corporate world. 20% are ex-founders, exited founders. Look at the States, where most people get their information. So most people raising investment in the UK and Europe are reading articles and content created in Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. If you look at Silicon Valley, 80% of investors, early stage investors there, are ex-entrepreneurs, people who have built and sold businesses. So it's a very different landscape and a very different mindset. And you've got to remember that in the UK and in Europe, you're primarily pitching to someone who comes from that more corporate world. They are used to making internal corporate investment decisions off of the back of a business case, an internal business case, a financial projection of kind of what the return of that project would be, and someone sort of pitching to them why they should do it. But most people think, oh, raising investments like it is in Silicon Valley with Airbnb, and they just sort of put this pitch together and suddenly there's millions of pounds or dollars thrown their way. It's a very different environment and a different kind of culture and a different attitude to risk this side of the pond. So, and it is very much the people you're pitching to are the people you used to pitch to in your corporate days. And that's why we go through the process we go through, because you need to be prepared for that and you need to make sure you have the answers.
Well, that increases my confidence a modicum. James, our time together is sadly drawing to a close. It's just absolutely looking down now and it's just flown by. It's been really fascinating, really got me thinking. And yeah, I'd love to talk to you afterwards as well about a few things. Because, yeah, I mean, what you've got is a really interesting proposition. And I think that, if people are serious about getting something to market, in getting some support, and they've got the time to put aside to do it, and they're being prepared to make an investment of money as well as time in making sure that they can turn into something that's fruitful, then your service, I think, could be a marvelous way for people to make it a reality. Because I don't think people who have an idea about something they want to do realize just how challenging it will be or how much it might cost them. The internet's full of stories of people who just made an account on Amazon and started, drop shipping stuff from China or whatever it might be, and they made all this money, but that isn't or could just go on and start trading and make a ton of cash. Those things don't really happen to
No,
most people,
one
because
in
if
a
they
million.
did, they wouldn't be advertising it if it was easy to do. Everyone would be doing it and we'd all be rich.
That's it. It's the media is very selective as to the reality of entrepreneurship and what's involved, and it's great that we have these great success stories that we see and will inspire us, but we also have to realize that strategically the founder that went and raised 10 million off the back of a pitch deck and their idea is if a tiny percentage of founders are raising investment in the first place, they're a tiny percentage of the tiny percentage that are getting those sorts of results. And usually it's because they know their investors from a previous life. They're one of them, and they knew who's back to scratch. But you've got to sometimes do a bit of digging on those stories and see what the reality is on that.
Yes, I know a few stories like that. But that's the thing. I think that some people have got brilliant ideas, and they're really fortunate to be in a situation where they've got more support than the average person who could have an equally as brilliant or more brilliant idea and doesn't have the financial or familial or external support that the people have. So they're less willing to take the risk.
I'll often say, and I've mentioned it a few times in the book, great ideas don't raise investment. Great communication does. There's lots of great ideas that never go anywhere because founders can't access that capital or pitch that vision and access the resources they need, whether that be financial or human resources. They just, they're unable to pitch their vision. And it's not the great idea that determines success. It's the founder's ability to pitch that idea. And then ultimately there's two killers to raising investment. The first is being able to communicate your idea in a way that convinces investors that they want to back your business versus all of the hundreds of other opportunities that are landing in front of them any given week. And the second is a founder's ability to meet potential investors, actually build a network of high net worth individuals and angels who would give them the capital if they had a great pitch and a great business case. So there's two big killers. And if you can solve, our goal is to solve those two killers, help you communicate that in a way that inspires investors to want to get involved. And secondly, find prospective investors to actually pitch to in the first place that have the inclination and capital to invest into businesses like yours. And if you can solve those two things, your chances dramatically increase. And that's what it comes down to.
Well, James, thank you so much. I've tried to, just quickly as you're talking there, reflect back on the conversation and trying to think, well, if I was going to summarize it, I couldn't do it justice. But for me, this has been a conversation about pivoting, about having a strong vision for what you're trying to achieve, not really caring how much of that vision you can achieve with your product, the thing you're getting out there, but having a vision that's so strong it pulls you through and drives you to succeed. And then it's a story of your ability to do that at Robot Mascot, and really create a network and a system which helps people get the funding and turn them into people at their kitchen table who are just running a business and trying to make a success to real solid, I hate the word, but I can't think of any better one now, but, bulletproof entrepreneurs with a strong business plan with financial projections, but a strong vision that they can articulate. And that's, for many people, worth its weight in gold. So thank you for sharing all of that with us, James. For people who want to find out more, could you share with us your website address and any other mechanisms?
Yes, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, on social. That's where I hang out most. So James Church on LinkedIn, and I'm sure you'll find me. The Robot Mascot website is robotmascot.co.uk. From that website, you can get yourself a free copy of my book. So you can order yourself a free copy from there. There's also, if you go to pitchready.co.uk, pitchready.co.uk, you'll be able to access a scorecard as well. You'll be able to assess your own ability right now to go and raise capital, and that'll give you a tailored report on your investment readiness and what you might need to work on to get more ready. So there's a few different resources there that you'll be able to access to continue on the journey.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make sure that the links for those are in the show notes, and we'll chuck some of them onto our social media posts as well. And of course, James will be tagging you in LinkedIn and whatever other mechanisms we use, like TikTok. Crazy engagement on TikTok at the moment, I was saying before we started, actually. So do follow us on TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, so that you can see all of the great content that we have and links to the relevant things that James was speaking about there. James, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a delight. And I say the time has just flown by. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
So and nice to finally get you on. Hopefully, maybe next year we can come on and we can talk about how some success stories, perhaps. Maybe we can find a way to have some people share some of those, because I think that people would be interested in hearing that. Yeah. And everyone, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back again next week. So please make sure that you join us then. Thank you very much.